Today's matchup. JAG Greenwings. Afreeca Freecs. King Zone Dragon X. AT Rolster. Beginning of the end. 2018 League of Legends Champions Korea Spring Split.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to LCK Spring 2018. I remain Atlas, and this is, of course, Papa Smithy, as always this season. And damn, do we have a day for you today. JAG versus Afreeca, and then the coveted KT versus King Zone. We are super spoiled. You guys are also super spoiled. Papa, what's the most exciting thing that you can think of today?
I mean, the most exciting thing to me is that we might actually have one of our finalists, for the finalists for the Busan final in a couple of weeks' time, already guaranteed today. If results go the way of King Zone, if they beat KT and also Afreeca, fail to 2-0 in the first series, things can really go, interestingly, very early the way of King Zone Dragon X in terms of locking in first spot. It's not guaranteed, but for that to happen 7 match days before the end of the season would be a big news story with how even the LCK has been outside of King Zone's domination.
Yeah, there are no guarantees for any of the teams playing today. Actually, nothing is set in stone just yet, and even JAG Greenwings can make a 4th place finish if things go correctly for them.
That's a lot of things going their way.
Yeah, well, I mean, KSV needs to basically be absent for their next games. But still, I mean, that could potentially happen. They've had slumps in the past. And JAG, if they can pull it all together, we know what they're capable of. Don't necessarily know who they're going to be running this time around. And Afreeca Freecs, of course, they've been switching up 80 carries as well. It's sort of like the 80 carry sub-battle here on the Rift for our match number 1. And we are going to highlight it right now. You can see Afreeca dominating in 2nd position and can still potentially make that 1st place if things go very wrong for King Zone.
It's all about the what-ifs, Atlas, and I think every team around the playoffs is still hoping. The SKT fans still believing, even though they're now looking more and more like an outside chance and making it top 5. Seems like JAG suffered a penalty point today.
That could actually be a big deal.
Wasn't aware of that, but that does say that JAG finds themselves also at -5, so that could also be important. And how close we are around the top 5. See what that means for calculations, but all we know is it's 2nd versus 6th. But with Afreeca Freecs largely in a good run of form, seems like a difficult time for the side of JAG Greenwings.
Yeah, very difficult. And look, that does mean that JAG can only make it to a +1 game score, which could actually become relevant if they can catch up to KSV, because the best they can do is get to that 9-win mark. So if KSV lose all of their matches, and there is a chance that we will go to that game score in order to work things out. So very pivotal is the loss of that 1 single point. You can see right here, I mean, it all comes down to standings at this stage of the competition.
Absolutely, and when it comes to JAG, like you say, they want to get a 2-0. They just need to keep 2-0ing, keep their dreams alive. Seems remote. The matches they have remaining include King Zone. So if King Zone already have things sewn up, maybe that's going to be a winnable game if they're going to be fighting for first spot on that day. Going to be a very tricky one. Afreeca have not played this week, so more games coming through. And you guys get to see some scenarios. So basically, I think maybe you can take us through this, Atlas.
Yeah, if JAG Greenwings win the match and then King Zone also win, then they've confirmed 1st place. That is also the case if Afreeca Freecs win 2-1. And then we also get a King Zone 2-0 victory. That will also be a confirmed place. But if we get the 2-0 victory for the Afreeca Freecs, then it is still unconfirmed that they've made it to that top spot.
Yeah, speaking to Gorilla last week, they felt like 2-0 they'd go through, but of course they could not beat the Rocks Tigers 2-0 earlier this week, and that's why things right now a little bit up in the air. Still, almost every scenario today and scenarios going forward suggest King Zone Dragon X first, but until it's sewn up, there's still that little voice that calls into the doubt.
Yeah, and I mean, we're talking about Rocks Tigers is actually very important because there is that JAG Greenwings versus Rocks match that's coming up. We're going to have a look at JAG to start things off, and the question mark always is, Who are they going to be fielding on the bottom side of the map today? Sorry. No, that is not what we're actually talking about. I'm getting excited about Afreeca.
Too excited.
Already. But it's the mid lane that we're looking at, and it's going to be Grace. He's been the one that they've been looking for most of the time for their victories. There's a couple of times Justice has played well. If you look back to the SKT series, that is certainly where he has had some form. But Grace has been tried and true so far this season since the loss of Kuzan.
And I'm looking slightly to the stage left when it comes to Grace, to the jungler, because it feels like Umti's King T, or his struggling days, have really let down Jinair, or actually empowered them. The Olaf, a really big pick for him in the jungle. So given that he's been up and down, he needs to be up today against the pair of junglers from Afreeca. Because once we get to their lineup, it seems like the squad rotation is going to be happening for Afreeca Freecs as well.
Yeah, it really is feast or famine. Mowgli at the moment with the absolute most ridiculous KDA ever, but he's only played a few games, so it does get a bit skewed, and we are going to bring up the Afreeca Freecs now to check out what they're going to be fielding in the AD carry position. So that was what I was looking for last time. Got a little bit overexcited, and they're going to be sticking with the veteran status as Kramer is going to be making his way back onto the Rift, and I find it a little bit interesting because aiming has been impressive.
Aiming, after that ruling from the team, will no longer be playing this year. Atlas, or so far they say that for now, aiming is out of the roster. So
always thought that was a little bit still on the line, so a bit sad to hear that it has been now confirmed.
But Mowgli is the interesting one to me. He will be the starter. That's allowed Spirit to hang back and watch the pathing of the enemy jungler, get information on Umti, make him predictable. That is a worrying predicament for the side of Jinair Greenwings, given how up and down Umti has been.
Yeah, and it was Spirit that they fielded last time against Kongdu Monster. You can see that 2-0 victory, but Mowgli was at the helm of the Afreeca Freecs when they destroyed the Rocks Tigers. Had a 30 KDA throughout that series as well. Absolute domination from the young jungler. You can see Jinair, they've been suffering a little bit, but the win against MVP, I mean, that's still good, and pushing KSV to 3 games, they still could potentially find something. There's not great reading for Jinair fans if you're looking at going up against the Afreeca Freecs today.
The only thing that you have in your court is the fact that last time the two teams met, it was a Jinair victory. A different time for Afreeca Freecs, but Afreeca Freecs' consistency, going from the always 3-game team to largely a 2-game series team, something that's held in high esteem. Mowgli's only played 4 games, so he's going to have an inflated KDA at over 10. Umti on his day can definitely have his way with basically any enemy jungler in the league, but whether it's his day or not is usually determined about 10 minutes into a map.
Yeah, and Mowgli also, he's only lost 1 match, that was playing Sejuani. He's also only died whilst playing Sejuani. His Zac and his Kha'Zix remain deadless so far this round, but you can see there's still a few things that weigh in favor of Jinair, and you mentioned that last match, but also, 2017 Spring, we can go back there if we want to. Just seems like they're pretty good in round 1 of Spring.
And some of these historical factors are a little bit misleading. No more Marin. Jinair also has a couple of roster changes this year. Things still coming together. No sign of Ixu, I guess still on the cryptocurrency wave. But again, in the first round, Robin, it was pretty clean from the side of Jinair. They showed us stuff they hadn't before. First game of Skarner coming through from Umti on the day. We should also focus on the man who currently leads the MVP race and may go back-to-back in MVPs. It was BDD and Kuro sharing the award in summer of 2017. In 2018 spring, Kuro 100 points ahead of BDD. We could actually have a repeat dual winner, which would be an insane thing to see season on season.
Yeah, and Kuro's been playing so many different champions as well. I mean, his Kassadin was fantastic, but it's the LeBlanc that really stands out. Man, after that complete horror level 1 situation, still able to grab that game by the horns and just destroy. Extremely impressive so far in the mid lane. We're going to highlight the top lane, though. It's going to be Soan against Keen. Both of these players, we were expecting different things moving into 2018, and Keen really standing out as this more tank bruiser player rather than the carry we were otherwise expecting.
I mean, you see 11 games of carry there, but like you say, basically everything else has been Sion, very heavy priority for Afreeca. 1 game in the mid lane, but mostly a top lane pick for them, and largely the tanks. So we know that he can, on his day, move over to carries in more and more Gangplank as Week 8 has gone on, whereas Soan had a really good game on the Camille last time out. Might be a respect pick, given that Camille priority is only shooting up and up, as champions around her power level have been nerfed on patch 8.4.
Yeah, we saw yesterday, in fact, the Camille doing ridiculous things, even when stuff like the Fiora was picked into it on purpose, but maybe a different scenario there. Soan has been certainly favoring the Ornn as well, which we've seen still be very, very prevalent, and only one time this season has Keen decided to pick it up. Might be something to look for as we head into Champion Select, but let's have a look, see whether the fans agree with us, and they do. The Afreeca Freecs definitely out in front as far as the fan vote. They're second place. They're a dominating team so far. Jin Air will really need to hope for a miracle today.
And Afreeca Freecs just want to have the revenge factor as well. They don't want to have dropped 2 series to any team in what is currently the season that will anoint them as one of our true contenders, rather than a team that was around the pack but never as good as the top 4. Afreeca affirming as a top 3 team, let alone a top 5 team. And Jin Air, they just need to win every series and hope that results go their way. With the penalty point, things get more tricky because there might not be matches. It might only be games when it comes down to the final calculations. But all they can do is focus on this match, which should be a fun one. We have a massive one coming in our second match, but a match with almost equal importance in our first match.
Yeah, and we highlighted Soan versus Keen as our key matchup. I want to highlight Teddy versus Kramer, because Kramer making his way back onto the roster this time, and Teddy is always the guy we look for on the side of Jin Air. He has sort of not been the main carry that we've really wanted out of the man over the last few matches, and I'm looking forward to seeing whether Jin Air can play through him once again. It is how they've looked the best. Whether or not they'll be able to do it, we're going to have a look at him right now. See whether Teddy's going to be able to put his team on his back and carry them through.
Does play with a lot of burden sometimes. If Umti's early game doesn't go the right way, if mid lane is overpowered, all aboard the Umti train is basically all Jin Air have to play behind. So I, for one, want some diversification. I want to see Soan popping off again. I want to see Grace back on the Talia that's been a big pick. Situationally, Jin Air have been able to fire at the same time, and they did that against the Afreeca Freecs in the first round robin. So maybe we'll have one of those weird scenarios where certain matchups, regardless of positioning on the ladder, might just end up being hype. SKT versus Jin Air ended up being that this season. Let's see if Jin Air can once again get one over Afreeca Freecs.
Yep, try and figure it out. Both of our resident mid lane LeBlanc players as well. Of course, 100% win rate over 1 game. My favorite small sample size statistics for Grace. But Kuro just been playing so well, and I don't know why we ever counted him out. We thought maybe Tucson was going to be able to get to that top spot for MVP, our first support MVP here in LCK Champions career. But, not happening so far, because 900 points is a hell of a lot to catch up to.
I mean, Kuro's just a dirty vote stealer. It's supposed to be about the support. Where was the narrative there? Please, Kuro, be benevolent. Stop hard carrying in the mid lane.
Yeah.
Allow your support to get over the line. And Umti, get back on one of these big carries. I want to see him invading. Mowgli only has those 4 games, only a handful. So I want to see some hard carry stuff from the man on your screen.
Well, you can see he knows. He's feeling it right now. Hard eye contact with the camera. Umti's ready to be King T today. Mowgli, not quite paying as much attention to those that are watching, but hopefully that means that he's just getting his eyes into this game.
We realized we're a couple of minutes after 5 p.m. local time, so while Joel hasn't given us the update, seems like a couple of last-minute settings before we're ready to go.
Yeah, making sure that we've got everything all sorted before we get into Champion Select. Oh, man. See whether Mowgli's going to be able to continue tearing it up as far as that KDA is concerned as well. I mean, we didn't see him on the KDA graphs when we introduced them yesterday. That's because he just hasn't quite played enough games for them to be all that relevant just yet.
And we're hoping for some new stuff as well. The Volley Bear's around, not seen in the LCK. We keep saying the word jinx, but we're jinxing ourselves apparently with that one. KT do play in our second set. Unfortunately, Death's current pocket pick has been Kai'Sa. It's not available just yet on patch 8.4.
Yep, Deft likes to get onto it very, very early because he knows that getting used to a champion takes him a very long time.
I mean, he's getting used to it before the big buffs come out. When the big buffs come out, if it does end up being a range buff, then perhaps those mechanics will be ready to go. We're ready to go. We want to see some League of Legends. We've had 2 back-to-back 6-match days in the LCK this week, and yet we're ready for more. Bastions for Punishment, LCK Addiction, who knows which one it is, but I'm ready for another 6. Could definitely be 6 games today, especially if Jin Air win game 1. This could definitely be a 3-game series. I can't see Afreeca going down 2-0 again.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to go the whole distance. Coaches now entering the booths. We have kept you waiting for just a little bit longer, but that's only to increase your anticipation as we head towards Champion Select for match number 1, game number 1. If yesterday is anything to go by, man, this could be one hell of a day of League of Legends. You looked at the teams that were playing yesterday, and it shouldn't have necessarily been hyped, but now that we're in Champion Select, it certainly is today. Jinair, what do they take away first against Afreeca?
I think Sion would be a good place to start.
Surprise, surprise.
Afreeca Freecs have already shown very recently they're happy to jump onto the mid lane Sion train, and the choo-choo train is going to be aborted for this game. No Sion allowed.
Not happening this time. And of course, Kuro picking up the victory on that one all too easily. The man's pretty used to playing Sion in the mid lane. You guys can cast your mind back about 12 to 24 months. Olaf going to be the follow-up ban, though, from Afreeca, so Umti not going to be able to get that
he needs a
hard
back rub.
invading
He's
style.
very depressed, as you can see. He needs a back rub already. He's like, come on, it's all I have.
Where was my free win? Oh, not today.
But the chances of Valdi Bear go up. Just another 5 jungle bans, and maybe it'll happen.
Well, Rakan's going to be taken away. Ignar showing us that you don't even need Xayah to make Rakan work, so he's going to take priority over his bottom lane lovers duo partner.
We've had the love just be spread out all over the Rift. The Star-Crossed lovers yesterday. You know, you just want to sometimes see a small win, you know, the lovers getting to get on the Rift together, but the schedules have been conflicting, apparently.
Yeah, straight up not happening. And Varus not going to be happening either, as Teddy's going to have that one removed from him. Sejuani's going to be the follow-up. Mowgli, certainly his favorite so far. 50% of his games out of 4 has been the Sedge.
Zac does loom as a very possible pick. I like blue side Sejuani bans because Umti's shown no presence on it. It's been a really unfortunate champion for the side of Jinax. Some recent victories, but mostly being a down champion. 3-7 on the season. Afreeca Freecs looking for the final ban. Galio's available. Quite a lot is up here.
Yeah.
As we get to this round, a lot of Galio bans still this week. The AD Galio has been banned, but the real Galio is available.
Yeah, I feel like Galio should certainly be the option that Jinair would look towards, but Skarner still available also.
Tells you a bit of where they need to get advantages if they're going to be leaving the Galio open. It's a big pick for Afreeca. Again, could be overlooked. We never know. Teams show different priorities, but Kuro is one of these legacy Galio players, and he couldn't play Sion, and Galio's the closest approximation. Jinair showing very high priority on the Skarner, but with Zac available, are we just going bouncy castle?
Yeah, I have a feeling that if you're Mowgli, makes a whole lot of sense. Kramer, though, is going to prioritize the Caitlyn first round. We saw her being first picked a whole lot yesterday, especially by SKT. Despite the loss, that bottom lane was certainly still dominant.
Maybe SKT and Afreeca have been scrimming because SKT and Afreeca both have shown no priority on the Caitlyn and then instantly are first rounding it. And their first series is this week. Yeah. Only 0-1 on the Caitlyn this season for Kramer, not being a big pick.
On the other side, though, most played for Teddy. 7 games so far. 7 on the Trist as well, but still standing out. Azumti going to be able to take away the Camille for Soan on the top side of the map. The man has, just recently, like you mentioned earlier on, had a fantastic performance on the pick, so it makes sense.
And take away is the right word because it denies the Hextech Ultimatum Heroes Entrance synergy. It's been the Tristana hype train for Teddy in recent matches. It is a self-counter pick when it comes to the early laning phase, but the supports can help out. I think Thresh will be looked at on both sides. So we'll see what Afreeca Freecs want to do here. They could lock in a high priority top laner. They could get Thresh to add to the Caitlyn.
Makes a lot of sense right now.
The Zac, like you say, unless Mowgli has an extended pool, and they will go into, at least the start of a bouncy castle.
Yeah. And having that hero's entrance just means that the Zac will be pretty much unkillable if he finds anyone.
I think both teams desperately want Thresh, so I want to see who bans it out. Otherwise, I think it will be first rounded on the red side.
Yeah, I think it has to be banned by Afreeca. I think that Jinair really want to utilize the synergy, and Afreeca may not necessarily want to go towards it, even though, yes, the early game power is certainly there.
The reason why you'd ban it and not first round it on red side is because you want to counterpick support, because right now you already know the top laner, so you're in a position to counterpick the Camille already. So the most value when it comes to counterpicks is first rounding a top laner, and that means Thresh will be taken away, as they don't want that to have a ranged laner to start to allow the Tristana a bit more of an option against the Caitlyn. interesting to see where they do go with Tristana, given that Caitlyn can be pretty overwhelming.
Yeah, interesting about what Afreeca are going to ban next, and it is going to be the Azir. I was going to mention, Corki, because it has been one of the preferential picks into the Galio, but Grace has never played it so far this season. He's played a lot of games, just never on the Corki. Have a feeling that he probably can, but hasn't been what he's gone towards just yet. So just making sure that they don't have that consistent damage duo of the Azir and the Tristana for the late game fights.
If you roll back, maybe it's just the Taliyah and trying to play the map in a pretty similar fashion to how Afreeca's playing the map. It was, like I mentioned, Taliyah and Skarner. They got a lot of value on a pick comp with a Tristana. Might be the way going. Again, I'm most interested in the support choice to help out the Tristana. Maybe Alistar. Alistar is already banned, though, so it's not going to be available.
The
See what Afreeca
Braum
wants
is
to do.
standing out here for Afreeca, but looking at the Tahm Kench, and I like what you say about counterpicking support to get the most favorable bottom lane you can possibly get, but looks like Afreeca are just going to take away the Catfish, make sure that Jin Air didn't have that option for them, and you can understand, of course, does work very, very well when you've got a Skarner on the opposing side.
Side of Jin Air showing some range support, which I think would be very helpful for lane, but won't necessarily fit every composition. We are still in that melee support meta. Could find some sustain through the Taric.
Yeah, and also helps for any sort of cheeky, less man Barons, 2-mans, 3-mans, things like that, if you want to just sit there and heal up.
In the West, it's seen as a pseudo counterpick to the Galio, because during the flight time, you arm the Cosmic Radiance and then try to outlast the initial burst from the Galio.
Yeah, also not care so much about the extra tankiness.
And they will go for the Taliyah, so this is very much about turret destruction and pick power on the side of Jin Air. So Afreeca Freecs, they've left top lane to last. The top lane Ryze is available, interestingly.
Yeah, Ryze actually not being banned is crazy.
Being a big pick for Keen in the top lane. Could go more conventional, go for something like an Orin, but he's actually looking at Malphite.
That's one hell of a bouncy castle if they wanted to go there.
It's been played in the LPL. This is an outside chance of happening. But they flash over to the Fiora, and instead, we get old school from Keen. After all, they went from team fight into wanting to split. The Fioras this week have not necessarily been working out. But this is once again the skill matchup between the Fiora and the Camille. But I'm just excited that we get to see Keen flex his muscles after being on tank roleplay duty for the majority of the season.
Yeah, this is absolutely crazy, and we're going to have, speaking of crazy, Antara looking on, seeing whether Keen is going to have better luck in this matchup. We saw the stats for Camille versus Fiora so far in the LCK, and they are not very good for the Fiora. She's managed to win 1 out of what was like 9 games or something like that in the matchup.
History, if it repeats itself, it's not good reading for Afreeca. It's 1-8 in the LCK, and that's Fiora into Camille.
Yeah.
Even though on paper a winning lane matchup for Fiora, making Fiora work is more than a one-step process. And so far that hasn't been working. It's also 0-1 in his career for the side of Keen. Of course, he's still very new onto the pro circuit and was on Ever 8 winners, so win-losses don't mean everything. We know he has the mechanics, but because they haven't been there recently, it's going to be a treat to watch, as otherwise, a lot of standard stuff off the rift and a lot of team fight for Afreeca. So if they get the team fight going and win the split push, oh boy, it's going to be everything on fire for the side of Jin Air.
Yeah, it could be crazy, and I'm really interested to see what that Keystone pickup is going to be. Is he going towards the Kleptomancy, going for the scaling, sacrificing a bit of early game power? Because we saw the Comet doing ridiculous things for Crazy when we saw him on the map. We've been talking mostly about the top lane, but the rest of the map is looking super exciting as well. Let's get into game number 1, Jin Air versus Afreeca.
생성까지 30초 남았습니다.
Fans still making their way to the Seoul E Stadium here because it is still a relatively early start and everyone has stuff to do like work and school and things like that. I have a feeling we are going to fill up though because all of the seats are open. So as this one goes on, I'm going to be seeing a little bit more as Teddy fiddling around a little bit at the moment.
Whoa,
A lot of fans.
that is a combat
Oh,
Teddy.
Man. Looks like a gangster Teddy.
You do not want to mess with that teddy bear at all.
No, not at all. What are you talking about? I'm Teddy. I'm going to come and get you. It's what it sort of seemed like to me. I don't know. That's sort of gangster. I just recently saw... Yeah, okay, never mind. I'm not even going to go into it. Keen looking to try and grab a Crystal Spire down here, but So-On saying, no. Ooh, actually, going precision this time around is So-On. No Comets to come in for the Camille.
Yeah, press the attack extended trades are what the Camille's looking for rather than the Comet for laning phase, and Keen is going for the now very standard Kleptomancy. OGN showed these stats the last time we had the matchup and had them ready to go for the next time. Love it.
Bit of a copy-paste, just change one of the numbers.
So because it's a bot side leash, if you remember, we've actually seen Tristana lanes force the Skarner to solo down blue buff just so they could reach the lane at level 1 to get the push. And now it's going to be a Caitlyn lane getting the push. So this could be tricky times for Teddy.
Yeah, and it just shows how much they prioritize getting an advantage for Umti in the jungle. See whether he can actually translate that into success around the map, because otherwise it could just be sacking Teddy and Wraith to the wolves.
And it's multi-layered because remember they first picked Skarner over the available Galio that was clearly going to be a first-round pick for the side of Afreeca. The Skarner was available, the Zac was available as an answer, so they prize getting the early skirmish champion. They also give the leash in a tough matchup for the bot lane. That's about as much as you can do for your jungler in the early game.
Yeah, they also know that Teddy can farm extremely well no matter what the circumstances are. We haven't seen him fall behind too much, no matter what is the case. Is Mowgli actually going to cancel that back? Has to elastically slingshot his way out.
I think he would have gotten out, but you're never 100% sure about those invulnerability frames. So in the end, just cancels, and eventually we'll be back anyway.
Exciting thing is the Grace immediately moving towards the top side, and this is something that they will have. Priority in the mid lane is something that Talias are always very good at gathering for themselves. And being able to surf those walls does help them get around the map.
Again, this is very similar to the comp Jin Air ran in the first round robin against Afreeca. That was a 2-0 victory for Jin Air. And in my notes, the trio I was most looking for was Skarner, Taliyah, and Kalista. Now, the Kalista has changed out after some nerfs, but otherwise, very similar construction here and a lot of pick options. So you get the Tristana into a couple of items, you load up with the Weaver's Wall, and you take structures. It's big thing that can happen is Skarner threatens an all-in. Looking at the runes, Presence of Mind. Actually an interesting choice, given the longer cooldowns on the Camille.
See how it works as we continue. It's the first time we've seen press the attack as well. At least in recent memory. Comet does seem to be the optimal choice for our top lane Camille's. At the moment, still able to command control over this lane. 8 CS in the lead. I believe Keen should be able to grab some as it crashes towards the turret, and Klepto going to keep him up there. Does also start with the Ancient Coin, so a very sort of investment banker style to get us moving.
We expect to see Afreeca jungle mostly around bot lane because of the Caitlyn's lane strength, and to the extent of actually Mowgli starting up the Infernal. Infernal is one of the easier Drakes to solo. Ocean is by far the hardest.
Yep, doesn't have quite as much health as Umti is actually going to make his way towards the bottom side of the map. They have no vision of this dragon, and Mowgli's doing a decent job of picking up his blobs and
you just don't expect
alive.
Zac to be soloing the dragon at level 4.
Yeah.
So a bit hard done by Warfield. Umti is, despite some of the power in the lanes, they will lose the first Infernal. A Mountain will be spawning just before 11 minutes into the game. Nice little win there for the side of Afreeca, and just something you wouldn't expect as Jinez jungle.
Yeah, going to feel a little bit robbed. As Teddy, you can see, perfect use. The explosive charge to get all of those creeps. And he is staying well and truly within touching distance of Kramer, who's opted in for the Doran's Blade. We see sometimes the Doran Shield being taken, but in a matchup that's so favored for the Caitlyn, he will just try and be as frustrating as possible. Wraith goes home, and grab that Targon's Brace and teleport back into this lane with his spellbook that is available. Tucson also doing the same thing as So-On. Not the greatest of trades, but at least gets the tactical sweep to try and get something back. He comes down, Mowgli, gonna bash him into a ward. The stun is going to come in. So-On's gonna take this as an opportunity to go back home for the moment. The wave pushing back towards him, it's a decent time.
Control ward will spot Umti if he decides to go through towards the river, but he'll see it himself. So gonna get some vision around there, but otherwise not too much to mention. Lasting Wand and Infernal means some good pushing for the Galio earliest bot lane.
Yeah, a lot of damage onto Teddy. He's just taken down by Kramer. Wraith just has to look on in horror. Couldn't heal him enough, and Teddy, uncharacteristic death very early in this game.
The laning phase going better than expected. He just gets tied up by a trap of all things and dies. This Tucson has taken the Ignite to respect the summoner fully and goes down. That's unfortunate for the side of Jin Air. Laning phase has been going better than expected. Dazzle's down, stands on the trap,
no.
and the trap signals his doom. Does it for Teddy, as Tucson also celebrates the kill with a flash.
I like that. He's like, you guys deserved us to flash in that particular moment. Actually could be very important though, as Umpty very close to hitting that level 6 mark. Got a teleport coming in. Hookshot's going to go wide though. Could actually be a blessing in disguise as Umpty's going to get up here with the Predator. They do find Keen, but the Weaver's Wall is going to deliver Grace. They're going to make it a man advantage. Doesn't find the seismic shove though. Now Kuro, he's moving his way up and they need to respect the hero's entrance. Jin Air back away.
Two champions with globals always has that slight pause where you don't fully commit, remembering that hero's entrance can easily turn around a scenario like that. So they back away, a global is used. Now Kuro has a global advantage with the hero's entrance. He wants to go bot lane, as we well know. But at least Teddy, in his death, didn't use either summoner. So the chances of that gank working are a bit lower than expected.
Yeah, he also is able to farm out beautifully on the bottom side of the map as usual, so it's only going to mean some extra money for Kramer. Teddy shouldn't be behind by too much as far as the rest of the map is concerned. Laning phase is going to continue to be rough. The back is actually incredibly preferential for Keen on top side. The Sapphire Crystal feels awful for Soan as Teddy has to tank up the ace in the hole and the Peacemaker as well.
He's also gone about the most disrespectful you could, starting in with Ancient Coin, then going straight for a Ravenous Hydra with no Dorans. He doesn't have a single Dorans item. The double Dorans and Sapphire Crystal, but if he stands up with GP10 and no regen outside of Lifesteal and the health regen on the Tiamat and goes even, he is massively ahead.
Yeah.
Because he has not spent all that gold onto the early game items.
Yeah, 2 Doran's Blades. This doesn't feel great. Just couldn't quite afford a Sheen and needed to have as much battle stats as possible to get him through it. Dazzle not going to find anything as Teddy and Wraith. This is really rough times for the bottom lane of Jin Air.
I think not enough players are a bit frisky with their item builds. Obviously, if he fell behind, you criticize him for it. So it feels like you're being results-oriented, saying, okay, he's getting away with it, good job. But he has the Galio, so you can afford to be a bit safer when you have Galio to bail you out of most bad situations. He has regen. It's a preferential matchup for the Fiora as well. So given all those things, why not, if you have the exact gold numbers, skip over some lane priority and just make yourself ready for the split push even earlier, because the Fioras we've seen recently have been going for laning items, but never really hitting their stride, and the Camille's have been having success in the side lanes, let alone the team fights.
But often the Camille's also have been able to get that first back Sheen, things like this. Their back timings haven't been as bad as Soan's, to be honest. So Keen was afforded all of this extra space just based on what Soan was able to afford. I feel like the adaptation is another thing that we really need to praise Keen for. Just understanding that the disrespect is possible.
Things definitely going well for Afreeca. In summation, in the top side. Bot side, they already have the first Drake of the game and double control ward. We always mention is a first step towards that bot lane roam going unspotted. But for now, a mid lane play is possible.
Yeah, in fact, a lot of wards littering everywhere on the bottom side. But Mowgli, I think, is
level 6 and no Rod of Ages. The damage isn't there to actually burst down Grace. And level 6, the range on the Elastic Slingshot isn't quite out of order like it is from level 7 onwards.
They are going to get a Justice Punch, and the taunt at least lands. There's the cleanse. Can Mowgli connect him? But no, doesn't find the extra arms as Umpty wants to drag the blob back in, doesn't get it. And the Impale, in fact, does go on cooldown. Really good use of the Let's Bounce.
Yeah, that was something there that you can start to channel and guarantee that you get out, but it also uses the cooldown from Umpty, who feels sheepish. Seemed very clear what was going to happen. The trade up in terms of cooldowns for Afreeca, given how powerful Impale is in the early game.
Yeah, just silly, and Mowgli won't need the Let's Bounce to make these ganks work extremely well. Kuro with the Hero's Entrance still off cooldown as well, so he'll be absolutely fine. Umpty gonna grab this Rift Scuttler and continue his jungle path. We've seen Skarner's having a pretty rough time recently, as that's a really nice shove. Grace will be able to get some damage onto Kuro, but thankfully he's got the Aftershock. He's gonna be fine.
Not enough damage to take him down, such as Galio in the early game. They back away, and so far the first big Skarner, while set up for success, has not picked up the first Drake, and Pale on cooldown for now.
A lot of the stories aren't really great for Skarner so far in the LCK, but he's going to try it again, moving up towards the top side.
It's a party.
Yeah. Fracture is going to be his only CC option to try and lock down Keen. There's the hook shot. Riposte is now on cooldown, though, as So-On gets stunned. Will get himself back out of here.
Double teleport top lane.
Yeah, Kuro makes his way through. It's a really good seismic shove as So-On will need to try and put his back to the walls as Mowgli. Oh, he's going to get bounced back. That was a nice interaction. And now we've got Tucson showing up.
He's alone.
1 versus 3. I'm not sure what he's going to be able to do. Gets the Devour. And now So-On's going to fall. Afreeca Freecs somehow make it work when we thought Jinner might have gotten out.
He had enough friends to go for the 1v3 play. Kuro's flash into the brush ended up looking very comical. Got no value out of it, but they get the kills anyway. And Hero's entrance not used in all of that means it's there for the Drake. Spawns right now. It's been up for about a couple of minutes. They turn onto the Drake here to Afreeca Freecs, not with severe damage. But over time, they can pick up a second Drake of the game.
Well, now going to move on over. Mowgli going to prioritize grabbing himself a Scuttler first, as the Drake is just going to be ignored for the moment. But let's have a look at all of the crazy things that happen topside.
So the first teleport is challenged, you think, okay, it's going to be cancelled, they're going to back away. No, Galio decides to come in. Tucson switches over as well, and we're fighting. Kuro misjudges there, and gets a little snigger from you. I understand that. It was pretty funny. They go for the chase, and in comes Tucson at the end of this. 1v3, but knowing that the rest of the team can get there, pops him out. Keen even gets the kill, and he was the one who was being dived to start it all. So the next buy is going to be massive for Keen, and we've been waiting for the Fiora to overtake the matchup. If this one doesn't do it, I don't think any of them are going to do it.
And this is not when he's supposed to overtake the matchup as well. I mean, we have to remind you guys that normally it's a bit of scaling, a couple of items, and then the Fiora just carries the split push in the late game. It's not supposed to happen now, with the Kleptomancy being opted in for, and he does have that CS advantage over So-On, who could only afford a longsword after dying.
Mowgli is the most committed to soloing Drakes I've ever seen as that.
Yeah, and he might be really frustrated that Kramer and Tucson turned up. He's like, guys, I was soloing it though. He does at least manage to get the final hit, so we'll be able to take that one away. So a couple of Drakes now for Afreeca. They're pretty good ones, as the Ocean is going to come in as number 3. May not have quite as much priority, but grabbing an Infernal and a Mountain to start things off feels pretty good, as Kramer and Tucson want to be shoving through onto this turret and already down to about a quarter health. This push should really start to make things work as well, unless the Dazzle bothers him, and it is going to do so.
A lack of lane priority in bot lane has kind of pigeonholed Jinner to play only top, but that so far has been turned around a couple of times. That means that getting the turret destruction plays are so far delayed. We're waiting for 2-3 items onto the Tristana, and we still haven't seen the full value out of the pylon comp that Afreeca can enact. So Afreeca's Caitlyn lane gets the first turret of the game as expected with the drafted lane. They keep pushing, and Kuro there for coverage as well. Nice controlled play from the Afreeca Freecs.
Yeah, Kuro just basically got a turret by going and clearing wards in the Dragon Pit, because he was close enough for a hero's entrance. Jinner had to respect it, so easy. First turret blood going down, 3,000 gold now the lead for Afreeca. It's feeling pretty academic here from the Afreeca Freecs side. Keen showing us that yes, Fiora is a good matchup. We felt a bit silly talking about the priority that you can get in the matchup, but at least finally someone's been able to figure it out.
It's one of those weird things where, again, in lane, 1v1, final destination, it's 60-40, or maybe even better, maybe 65-35. It's just ease of execution is so important in professional play, and making Fiora work as the game goes from mid to late game actually requires multiple steps that can go wrong anywhere in the chain, and then suddenly Fiora's useless. If Fiora can't split push, well, then she's team fighting already. You feel pretty bad about that. Maybe there's enough CC on this team to make her at least decent, but she's not a strong team fighter. So because you need to both win the lane and also have a plan to set up around a 4-1 or a 1-3-1, because it gets interrupted so often, it's less reliable than a strong split pusher who can also start fights, which is what the Camille represents. When the two things come together, that's when you get excited about a Fiora, and it seems like it will come together.
Well, Mowgli is just going to kidnap a Tristana. Cosmic Radiance is going to arm in time, but it's inside the belly of Tucson, and they just wait it out. They're going to feed Kramer another kill and maybe another turret. As you can see, Teddy, he's frustrated.
It's getting rotated on. They're rotating around the Tristana Taric lane and rotating with their strong Caitlyn for turret destruction. There was no vision there. For them to walk up, they had no idea where Zach was on the map at all. And trying to make a cross-map play against Hero's entrance. It's just not going to work, Atlas.
Nope. And Keen's going to be there to make sure that he's not able to grab that blue buff. Mowgli is the king of soloing things. It's like he's playing League of Legends, but also kind of really wants to play, like, what is that, the game on PS1? About the
There was
Colossi?
a lot of games on PS1.
Damn it, it's like a super famous one, and I can't remember the name.
You think Shadow of the Colossus?
Shadow of the Colossus,
on
that's
PS2.
the one. PS2. I wasn't a PS man, if you guys remember my conversation about Donkey Kong yesterday. He is going to be able to do it, though.
Might have even been PS3, now that I think about it. But
No, I think it was PS2. It was definitely one of those two.
never played it, but have definitely heard of it.
Remake. Going to be sick. Apparently.
You got a percentage on that one, Atlas?
No idea. I'm not actually going to go for it because I've been wrong a lot so far today. Mowgli's going to be able to go home, though. We'll see whether he actually drops down Shelly, where she's going to be going. Mid lane, outer turret. Seems to be the next target here for the Afreeca Freecs. They want to continue opening up this map.
And Kuro's getting fun with the item build. Proto Belt's been out of the meta for a little while on these mid lane Gallios, and I spy with my little eye a Hextech Revolver to start that one off.
Yeah, and we have actually seen a few of it in solo queue in different regions as well as far as first items. The Proto Belt into full AP has been an option that's been toyed around with, but Kuro going to go for it after the Rod of Ages. I like it. A couple of different flavors with some early game power in the Proto Belt as well as the scaling of the Rod of Ages.
If you're wondering about the interaction, you can't actually Proto Belt while you use your taunt. It locks you out of using items and other abilities, but you can actually use it before to just guarantee the taunt, basically, is the way you think about it, or you use it afterwards when you're in melee range of the enemy to get full damage out of the bolts. So it's the way you use it. It does add a bit more utility for Kuro, especially when his flash is on cooldown. Map so narrow for Teddy, who once again walks up and might just be instantly turned on.
Yeah, Rocket Jump may not be quite as good as he thinks it is, as he doesn't have a flash. Unfortunately, Wraith unable to tank up that one either, as Grace gets pulled back. Winds of War does a fair bit of damage. He's not going to be too worried about it. Merc Tread's helping him there as Tucson.
Well,
Gonna
rotation
grab Kramer.
in.
Yeah, exactly. This could be the outer turret because there's a lot of damage on this Caitlyn. Weaver's Wall isn't even a great idea as it almost does get the knockback onto Shelly, who was on top of the wall, but she's absolutely fine.
Unfortunately, it doesn't get the knockback, and it also doesn't stop Shelly from walking up because it was just too shallow for that. We're seeing fights everywhere.
Mowgli's going to get the kidnap. Cosmic Radiance does arm in time onto Wraith, but he's not going to be able to save Umpty, who's right in the back line. Kuro's going to get bonked back, but Keen picks up the kill in the end. Hero's entrance just to confirm it. And Afreeca Freecs, they're continuing to push 5v4.
And Atlas, it's perfect game territory in the first 20 minutes. Nothing has been picked up yet by Jin Air Greenwings. Even the Rift Herald went the way of Afreeca. They push forward, and so far, no resistance.
Yeah, in goes Kuro, has the flash, was threatening, but he's just buying space to take down this inhibitor turret. 19.5 minutes, and they grab the first inhibitor turret and break the base. This is ridiculous. You said perfect game. This is the fastest perfect game that I've seen since Afreeca Freecs Game 1's last season.
And you take a step back and remember, we're seeing all top three teams play on this match day. KT versus Kingzone in our second series. Umti was too far up, so just taken down. The Hero's entrance available just to guarantee Keen in the front line. We're also seeing all 5 of the 2016 Rocks Tigers play today, as Kuro is in this series, and the other 4 will be in our second series. So far, the synergy between Afreeca has been beautiful, and Jin Air took their risk, not going for a range support, drafting the Tristana into Caitlyn, clearly without a plan, because so far, everywhere the Tristana's gone, either Zach or just the duo now with 3-item Caitlyn at 20 minutes with an Infernal Drake, if you don't mind, have followed the Tristana and made her irrelevant.
Yep, just ridiculous. Keen is going to go back as well. We'll see where he's going to be going, whether it's going to be the Black Cleaver picked up, but no, it's not. It's definitely going to be Trinity Force. Didn't spy the Sheen while we were checking out the gold. I do absolutely love what Kuro has done picking up the Proto Belt, because now he's got a lot of extra power right now at 20 minutes, and that's exactly when Afreeca want to be fighting, right in time with Kramer hitting that 3-item spike as well. This is really scary stuff, because the Baron is something that Jin Air need to be continuously thinking about.
How do you advance your position on the map is something that Jin Air struggle with. If they had lane priority in the bot lane, then you expect people to pile on, but now people piling on from Afreeca has to surf away.
Yeah, Abyssal Voyage, just delivering underneath the turret. Afreeca Freecs trying to find a catch, but they get the Weaver's Wall for free. That means that that's something that can't check the Baron pit that Jin Air used to have access to.
Defensively, Jin Air have many fewer options to try to stall the game. Stana needs items that are still so far away. She's 3,000 gold behind the Caitlyn and 1.5 items as well. In the side lane, Keen has been able to build entirely for lane and is basically a Hydra up on the Camille. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's not worried at all. Happy to chill out underneath that turret. Has the Nomad's Medallion as well.
Baron started and, well, the Weaver's Wall is on cooldown, so Umti gets to go for the zombie check, and even that's going to be difficult.
Yeah, and Afreeca just looking to try and set themselves up. They can just wait for a face check because that's exactly what Jin Air have to do, while Keen just destroys the 1v1 on the bottom side. Wants to find the vitals as there's the grand challenge. Hextech Ultimatum is blocked by the looks of things with the riposte.
That was a great play by So-On. So-On did everything he could there to outplay through a massive gold advantage for the enemy, so nicely done. Kuro is on peel duty. That means the Baron will go down the way of Afreeca, so even that one singular good moment for the side of Jin Air really means nothing in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, and once again, Mowgli a little bit upset, wanted to be able to take the Baron down himself. As he's been soloing a lot of them, but it is going to be the Afreeca Freecs now. Purple buff, so many options.
3,000 gold lead on Fiora and Camille feels just terrible. For the side of Jin Air, it means that Jin Air really cannot do anything. They can't engage, they can't play side lanes because enemy split pusher is Fiora.
They can't even gank the side lane because he's now got a QSS.
Also, let me introduce Galio, the man to counter ganks, and also a Tom Kench to bring over the Caitlyn that has 3.5 items. So,
yep.
Yeah, they're just screwed. There's really nothing they can do apart from the 5-man pylon, and they're going to be spotted doing that because the ward line is there. So, unfortunately, it kind of feels like the only question mark about this game is, will it be perfect or not?
Yeah, that's what we're going to ask now. Inner turret is going to go down, continuing that one forward as Kuro gets a decent little taunt, and now another Abyssal Voyage just to deliver the bottom lane. Everyone rotating so beautifully. Hero's Entrance and Abyssal Voyage, a fantastic combo for the Afreeca Freecs if ever they want to all join up. Teleport available from Keen as well if they want 5, but they don't need it. Keen's just going to take down this turret as well. This Baron power play doesn't need to be huge, but it is going to be regardless. Waiting for a minion wave on the top side. Inhibitor falls in mid. Everything going wrong for Jin Air, but it's going so right for Afreeca, who need to have an upswing at this point because King's Zone look brilliant. KT also look good, and Keen, no! The perfect game is going to be sacrificed. I mean, the rest of the game's going to be over as well because it was desperation, and that's going to mean the base completely destroyed in every other lane. The Afreeca Freecs, do they actually want to take the 4v5? So-On not quite there just yet, so 4v4 at this precise moment.
The Afreeca Freecs had 3 perfect games in a season, and yet never actually had an upturn. Lost 2-0 in the wildcard match, and it was all over, as it always has been for them. I think they're going to take a season where they have no Game 1 perfect games, and yet look like a team that is right up there in the top 3. They will be cemented at number 2. They're able to win here, and whatever KT does, they will not be able to overtake them in second. So Afreeca want to be competitive to the last. An outside chance of first if King Zone start dropping series. All Afreeca can do is win every series 2-0, and if they do that, they will be second at worst.
Yep. It's the best they can hope for. KT unfortunately floundering. Looking back to that Rocks Tigers match really was where they lost that second place. So Afreeca Freecs capitalizing on that, looking like they're not letting up whatsoever. Consistency was always something that we spoke about when we were referencing Afreeca Freecs. This season, not so much at all. They had the 10 game wins in a row in the middle of this season, only lost 4 matches, and that was against top tier teams apart from that 2-0 loss against Jin Air.
And if you're new to Afreeca and kind of wonder where they're at, the thing I would say is, you know, the storyline of 2017 was Riot Games answering all the memes, all the old memes about where the game was at. They tried to answer them in 2017, answer all the things the fans wanted. Afreeca Freecs are trying to answer all the memes this year and get away from being the team that always plays 3 games, that can only win game 1 but always lose game 2, that can never win a series in playoffs. They're trying to answer all those, and we won't know if it actually happens until they play in the postseason. But they're definitely going deep into the postseason. Whether they can win that best of 5, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, well, Banner of Command is going to be utilized on the bottom side of the map. Kramer free hitting onto this turret. happy to do so. Man, that rapid fire proc was one hell of a shot onto the last remaining inhibitor turret, and Kuro and Tucson happy to tank things up. Kramer, the safest Caitlyn in the history of the world, because there's 3 burly tanks in front of him. And even Keen is just bothering everyone elsewhere on the map. In goes Omti, though, as the Devour there to cancel out the Impale. They've got answers just everywhere as Hero's entrance. There's a Kidnap that's not going to find too much, but Afreeca Freecs, they're just happy to continue pressing buttons and push minions towards Jinair.
Oh, one auto onto
God.
Grace, more than 50% of his HP. They know Cosmic Radiance is down. They want to group up 3 minion waves and end the game.
Yep, neither of the teams actually able to find the engages that they're looking for, but Afreeca Freecs, they don't need to engage. They just need to keep pushing minions forward, and Kramer will be the artillery to take down the turrets. Soan getting shot by one shot. Looks like he's taken a full battle with a whole lot of other champions, but nope, that is just Kramer because he is so strong. They just can't find a way in. There's just no options. Kramer uses the net to get over onto Grace. Another couple of shots and he's dead, but Keen just protecting his AD carry. Tucson as well with the Devour means that Kramer was never in trouble. Man, they are just looking so strong. Only the one death to talk about, and they'll even take a dragon just because why not?
Yeah, Cheeky Infernal to even amp up their damage, pad their stats. Nothing that Jinair does this game will turn it around, so Afreeca Freecs going to go back, buy, roll up to the base that is still going to be broken in 3 spots, and end the game. They managed to buy themselves another 5 minutes, but for Jinair, talk about the next game because this one is over.
Yep, I think you start in the comms talking about what you're going to do, and maybe grabbing a first-round Skarner is not something that they're going to do. Leaving open the Galio as well, always dangerous, but it hasn't really been about him this game. The Caitlyn is just really strong. Maybe Teddy just didn't expect it to be picked away from him.
And it's a surprise to everyone because, as I mentioned, SKT, first game of Caitlyn yesterday, showed Caitlyn priority at first pick. Afreeca Freecs was 0-1 on the Caitlyn with Kramer, and pick it first round with the Galio. And they leave both of them up, and then there was really no draft to salvage that the moment that the Galio Caitlyn was drafted if Afreeca played to their win conditions, and they clearly have been great about doing that. And there's just been nothing available. The Tristana into Caitlyn has been a failure. They need a new plan for game number 2.
Yep, the only option really was that Soan got so far ahead, but he just straight up didn't. Keen even won the lane when he shouldn't have. Kramer going to be able to take this one down as Teddy. That shield non-existent now as he goes down to about half health. But Mowgli, he's the one starting off the engage. Cosmic Radiance is good, but it's not enough time. Soan just takes too much damage. Wraith has been challenged by Keen, and in goes Mowgli. One more time, goes golden. And now everyone's getting healed up by the Grand Challenge. It's everyone on the fountain of Jinair, and they couldn't keep their Nexus alive. A disgusting game 1 for the Afreeca Freecs. There's no other way to describe it, but beautiful if you're a fan of seeing them possibly make it to the rank 1 position here in the LCK.
First game they play in week 8, an immaculate one. 1 kill away from being a perfect game. Just so well engineered. It's also heartening to see Keen back on a true carry, and the team both know how to play around it. And the player who's been role-playing the Scion for the better majority of the past month or so, also being able to show his chops, the thing that got so many people excited about him in the second round robin of Summer, and what got him picked up by the Afreeca Freecs. Great performance, setting up for a 2-0, whereas Jinair, they need a wholly new draft that really allows them to have a more true win condition and also buys a bit more breathing room for Teddy, because given the Skarner and the hard leash to the Skarner, got the team nothing.
Yep. Nothing really worked. Just too much mobility on the side of the Afreeca Freecs. The Abyssal Voyage was utilized so beautifully. The Hero's Entrance almost didn't need to be utilized beautifully because they never got to the stage where they needed more durability. It was just all the picks, all the catches at the right times. And the Afreeca Freecs ran away with it, absolutely. The 2v2 kill on the bottom side of the map as well, something that you wouldn't expect from Teddy. Just not able to keep themselves alive. The snowball was absolutely real. Mowgli soloing everything on the map as well to start things off. It looked like Zach was an early game champion that wasn't scared of anyone. Shouldn't really be the case. Oh man, the Afreeca Freecs now looking at that 2-0 as a possibility. Kingzone, if they do get the 2-0 after this, it is still going to be a relative confirmation they'll be able to get towards that top spot, but haven't quite secured it yet. KT Rolster are formidable opponents. Man, things are looking real for the Afreeca Freecs. But guys, a short break and then game number 2 right after.
You took off your mask, now it's like you are some other guy.